alaikum everyone. This is Mohammad Muqadass Ashraf from Academy Aishmuqam. I'm the social science teacher in this academy, and from today on, I have decided to complete the syllabus of class 10th history, chapter wise, starting from the first chapter, that is the Rise of Nationalism in Europe. Our motto will be to complete the syllabus, deeply analyzing the whole topics that are in the syllabus. And for that very purpose, we will deeply analyze all the chapters. So the first chapter, that is the Rise of Nationalism in Europe, it is related to the nationalist revolutions, or we can say the nationalist ideology that emerged in Europe in the 18th and 19th centuries. Okay. First, we will discuss the topics that we have to discuss in this very chapter, that is the Rise of Nationalism in Europe. The first topic that we have to discuss, it is the French Revolution. The class 10 students will be aware of this very topic because they have already studied this topic in class 9th. It is the first chapter of the class 9th history, so they will be much aware about this very topic and the events that had happened during that revolution. And in this very class, that is the class 10th, this topic, the French Revolution, we have to study it as a sub-topic of the chapter, that is the Rise of Nationalism in Europe. So the first topic, that is the French Revolution. After that, it is unification of Germany and the making of nationalism in Europe, the age of revolutions, the unification of Britain, the unification of Italy, visualizing the nations, and nationalism and imperialism. These are the topics that we have to discuss in this very chapter. So the first thing that we have to just analyze is that the things that we are studying, these are related to Europe. And everybody of you know that Europe, it is one of the continents of the world. So we have to study the nationalist revolutions that had emerged in Europe, and that changed the political system of Europe from monarchy to democracy. Okay. So the first topic, that is the French Revolution. We have to study French Revolution. So first, the French Revolution. You know that France is a country in Europe. Okay. And after that, the word revolution. Revolution means, everybody of you know that there are possibly three words, that is revolt, rebellion, and revolution. And you should be aware, because you are in class 10, you should be aware of the difference that is between these three words. These are related to each other, but they are comparatively different from each other. Related to each other, but also different from each other. In this very chapter, it is revolution. It is not a revolt or rebellion, it is the revolution. When a rebellion is successful, it is called a revolution. Okay, so the revolution, it means a forcible overthrow of a government or a social order in favor of a new system. That is, the revolution means whenever there is a change in any political or social system. Okay, likewise, that happened in France. There was the political system that was in France, it was monarchy. That is, a king was ruling the country. Louis XVI was emperor of France at that time. He was ruling the country and the people went against him, they revolted against him, they put on the biggest rebellion in the history of France, and they overthrew Louis XVI and they completely abolished the monarchy and the democracy, or the ideas of liberty, fraternity, and democracy, the idea of republic, that emerged in France. And that's why it is called a revolution. So the French Revolution, this means the time when the political and social system in France was totally changed. That is called as French Revolution. Okay. Moving next, this very revolution, it marked the end of absolute monarchy and the rise of democracy. As I have already narrated that the revolution means change. So in France, the change was from monarchy to democracy. Okay. Now, when we study about French Revolution, there are different things that we have to study in it. First, we have to study the important thing that we have to study. It is the causes that led to French Revolution. Whenever there is a change, whenever there is a protest, there is a clash, or there is a rebellion against the government, there is a revolt against the government, there are certain causes that truly led the people to go against the government. So the same situation was in France. There were different causes. There was not only one cause, there were different causes that led to French Revolution. So we will study every cause deeply in a detailed manner. Okay? And during that time, when we will study the causes of the French Revolution, we will also be studying the scenario of the people's lives, of the political system, of the social conditions, of the economic conditions of that very time when this revolution emerged in France. I have categorized these causes one by one so as to make it easy for you to understand. Okay, the first cause is the political cause or the political scenario. Okay, that was at the aim of the French Revolution. The French Revolution, already I have mentioned here that the French Revolution started in 1789 and it lasted until 1799. So the French Revolution, the timeline of French Revolution can be related as from 1789 to 1799. It almost lasted for 10 years, the French Revolution. Okay, it was the first revolution in the world history that transformed the political systems from monarchy to democracy. Okay. So the political cause or the political scenario, the cause that led to French Revolution or the scenario of the politics on the eve of the French Revolution. Talking about the political cause, the French government, or we can say that France was ruled by King Louis XVI. It was a monarchy where the king rules the country, and the king at that time was King Louis XVI. He belonged to Bourbon dynasty. It was one of the ruling dynasties of France. It was the ruling dynasties of France. I have mentioned here. The Bourbon dynasty ruled France from 1589 to 1792. Okay, and Louis XVI, he was the ruler of France. He was the emperor, the king of France at the time of French Revolution. That is in 1789. But the thing about Louis XVI was that he was weak and indecisive ruler. That's why the revolution happened. He was unable to take decisions. He was less interested in the political system, or we can say the administrative matters. He was less interested in the administrative matters of the country. That is why the revolution happened. This is because I have just mentioned here that he was weak and indecisive, and also one of the important characters of this revolution in France, it was his wife, Marie Antoinette. That means she was the Queen of France. King Louis XVI, he was the king, and Marie Antoinette, she was his wife, and that's why she was the Queen of France. Okay. She was popularly known as Madame Deficit. Okay, I will just define it here why she was called Madame Deficit, because she was just spending so much money on her lavish lifestyle. That's why she was called Madame Deficit. And the lavish lifestyle of Marie Antoinette, it is also termed as one of the reasons that led to the financial crisis in France. It was one of the reasons. The lavish lifestyle of Marie Antoinette, that is the Queen of France, it was one of the reasons that led to financial crisis in France. That's why she was nicknamed as Madame Deficit. After that, France had absolute monarchy. I already just mentioned it, that France had absolute monarchy. The king had total control over laws, taxes, military, and the justice system. The king was the ultimate power holder in France. His word was the law. That is what it means. The king made decisions without consulting the people and had no checks on his powers. The king had no checks on his powers. He did what he wished. Okay? He was absolutely powerful. Absolute monarchy. Also, the unfair political system of the General Assembly. Okay? The General Assembly, it was a political body in France. And the king used to summon the General Assembly or the Estates General. Its other name was Estates General. Whenever he has to increase the taxes in France, he used to summon this General Assembly or Estates General. And in that very Estates General or General Assembly, there were 3 estates. That means the people of France were divided into 3 estates or 3 groups. That is the clergy, including the religious people, the nobility, that is the ministers of the king, or the feudal lords that consisted of the nobility, and the last one, that is the commoners. It consisted of the common people, the middle class and the poor class. Okay, that consisted the group of commoners. And the type of discrimination that was in this Status General, it was on the basis of the voting. Nobility and clergy were giving much more preference than the commoners. That was the type of political unfairness in Status General. And we will deeply study this very thing, that is the discrimination in voting system in the Status General between the three estates. We will study it in the social cause. We have to deeply analyze the social structure of France, the rights and the discrimination that existed there, and we will just clear it in that very lecture. So after studying all this, we can come to a conclusion that the political scenario of France that led to French Revolution, it was absolute monarchy that we have already studied, that Louis XVI was ruling the France along with his wife. The unfair political system of the General Assembly of the States General, lack of representation of people. We have already studied that the king was absolutely powerful, there was absolute monarchy, his word was law, so that's the thing that people had no representation, or there was lack of representation. Lack of rights, people had no rights, okay, because it was monarchy. And also the corruption and incompetence were the reason that led to French Revolution. So this was the political cause that led to French Revolution. There are different causes. I already mentioned that there were social cause, economic cause, okay, that led to French Revolution. And today we have completed what? Political cause. It will take me 2 to 3 lectures to complete this whole French Revolution. Also, with today's topic, I have put here some extra information. First thing that we have to understand is the word nation. What does nation mean? The name of the chapter is the Rise of Nationalism in Europe. And the nationalism word has emerged from the word nation. And what does nation mean? A nation is a group of people that live in the same area, territory, and share a common identity, that is language, culture, history, or religion. This means that the nation signifies a group of people that live in the same area or territory, like the French people. They lived in France. And what? They share a common identity, that is language, culture, history, or religion. The people of France, they lived in the same area, that is France. They had a common language, that is French language. Their culture, their history, their own history, and also their particular religion. That is the concept of nation. That is the concept of nation. So there emerges a new word, that is nationalism. That is, nationalism is a feeling of love, pride, and loyalty towards one's nation. Like the French people, they had love for France. They had pride over the history, over the culture of France, and they had loyalty towards their own country. That is why they wanted to just abolish the monarchy and set up a new government, that is the democracy, okay, and just do the things that will make the future of France better. After that, the important information about the Bourbon dynasty of France, the dynasty to which Louis XVI belonged, okay. The Bourbon dynasty of France, the information about the Bourbon dynasty of France. It was the ruling dynasty of France from 1589 to 1792, and again from 1814 to 1830. This first ruler was Henry IV. Its last ruler in 1792, when the French Revolution was going on, it was Louis XVI. And its last ruler in actual terms, after defeating Napoleon in the Battle of Waterloo, it was Charles X in 1830. So, total 7 Bourbon kings ruled over France from 1789 to 1830. There were 7 Bourbon kings that ruled over France during their timeline, during their reigns. Okay. After that, it is the character of Louis XVI. How was the personality, or we can say how Louis XVI was? What was his character? What were his personal qualities, due to which the French Revolution began and it just changed the whole scenario in France? The character of Louis XVI, he ruled from 1774 to 1792. It was his reign, 1774 to 1792. He was kind but weak. He was kind-hearted, but he was weak. That's why the France got in disarray. He lacked political skill. That's why he lacked political skill. That's why the French Revolution was never handled perfectly. That's why it led to the abolition of monarchy and the abolition of his government. He was intelligent but indecisive. He was intelligent, but he was indecisive. He was not able to take decisions at the particular time, at the perfect time. And mostly he was under the influence of his wife, that is Marie Antoinette. Okay? That is why he lost public trust and led to the French Revolution. These are the causes that he was kind but weak. He was intelligent but was indecisive. He lacked political skill. That was why. That was why the people of France, they lost the trust in him. They lost the trust in their king, and they started to rally against their king. And that was popularly known as French Revolution from 1789 to 1799. Okay. After that, it is some information about Marie Antoinette, that is the Queen of France and the wife of Louis XVI. Marie Antoinette, actually, she was an Austrian princess. She was an Austrian princess, and Austria, it was one of the countries of Europe at that time, and she was a princess of Austria. And at that very time, in the 18th or 19th century and in the past, the neighboring kings used to just have matrimonial alliances between themselves so as to make their relations strong. Okay, like that, Louis XVI of France, he was married to the Princess of Austria so as to just make a friendly bond between France and Austria. Okay, she was the daughter of Emperor Francis first, Emperor Francis of Austria. She was the daughter of Emperor Francis of Austria. Okay. She was married to Louis XVI to strengthen ties between Austria and France. As I have already told, that this relation was a matrimonial alliance that was a common thing between kings. Popularly known as Madame Deficit for her lavish lifestyle. She used to spend money in huge amount. She used to just have lavish lifestyle. That is why she was called Madame Deficit. Marie Antoinette was especially known for fashion, gambling, and private theatre. That's why she was nicknamed as Madame Deficit for excessive personal spendings. I have already mentioned that she was known as Madame Deficit for her excessive spending on just these things, that is the parties, banquets, and private theatre, the fashion, the gambling. These are the things she was spending money on, and that's why she was called as Madame Deficit. Okay, all this fueled the resentment of people against the monarchy, Louis XVI, that led to French Revolution. All these things, that is the political instability in France, the political incompetency of Louis XVI, the lack of decision making, that is, he was indecisive, he was intelligent but he was weak, he was kind but he was easily influenced by his courtiers and his wife, and also the lavish spending of Louis XVI and his wife Marie Antoinette. These were the political causes. These were the political causes that led to the people rally against their king and just start the French Revolution and change the course of history of France and the whole of the world. Okay, so this was the first cause, that is the political cause that led to French Revolution. Along with the political cause, we were able to understand the political scenario of that very time when Louis XVI was ruling France and when the people started revolting against their king. So this was the first cause, and inshallah I will upload more videos of this chapter, and we will try to easily understand this chapter. So stay connected with Alpha Academy for more videos of history, and also like, share and subscribe. Thank you very much. Be the best. Be Alpha.